So, batok is a pre-colonial or pre-Philippine hand-tapped practice that dates very deeply into our history and was eradicated and lost due to forces of colonization and cultural assimilation. And I say pre-Philippines because it just calls to attention that we are a very diverse collection of peoples, of ethno-linguistic groups amongst many different islands. So before the Spanish arrived, there was no monolith Philippine culture. And this touches on just how specific Batok is to these specific ethno-linguistic groups who had very specialized meanings and processes attached to their Batok rituals and ceremonies. So before, again, colonization and the eradication of this, everyone had markings. And again, they indicated your membership to a particular group, your family, your role in society, coming of age, beautification purposes, to name a few. And this is very, very similar to our Austronesian cousins across Polynesia. So the Hawaiians, the Samoans, Indonesians have this practice as well. Also our neighbors in Taiwan. And it's not comparable to Western tattooing as art. So rather it's a cultural practice, an expression of collective identity. So when you think of art, it's really like individual expression, like based on how the artist feels, their externalized experience of the world. But for Batok, it's not exactly like an individual artistic expression of the Mamba Batok or the cultural practitioner. That's why we describe it as a cultural practice versus an art. The second part of your question, how my work contributes to this revival, under Lane Wilkins' School of Batok, I would be considered a second generation stretcher under Christian Kabuay. So Christian has been stretching and assisting Manong Lane since they started, since the early 90s, or not early 90s, maybe like 2000s. We're already working together on researching, experimenting with the process, and also collaborating with other Batok practitioners in the Philippines too. So there's a lot of information and knowledge to be gained from visiting and just actually observing cultural life. And that's where the basis of a lot of Manong Lane's um, information comes from, as like a cross-cultural comparison, where we see the Samoans and think, oh, actually, their designs look very similar to our patterns. Why is that? And then we talk about language. The words for similar things, like ulo and ulu means head. So we start seeing these similarities and trying to piece it together that way. And a little bit more about the process is that stretchers and Batok practitioners support and need each other during this process. So my role is to be in good physical, mental, emotional shape to be able to stretch and support our marking recipient as well. So what the process looks like is I have to sit there and go like this and just make sure that the skin is at a very even stretch state so that the ink can be deposited evenly. So the mamba batok is not touching the skin at all, really. They're just using their hands to hold the tools. I hope to see a strong revival of batok tattoos in the diaspora, especially with the younger folks getting involved and interested, especially. I've noticed in the few ceremonies I have had the honor of stretching for that most of the recipients are Philams born in the diaspora, in the middle class, attained some level of higher specialized education. But regardless of class or gender, it's sought out by those who have a calling to reconnect with their culture and ancestors. And the concept of the identity crisis amongst Filipino Americans isn't new. But it's important not to frame Batok as a solution to a deficit while still acknowledging our history. So rather, like thinking about Batok as a deeply personal ceremony and a form of relationship building with your ancestors and community. I would say Balay Creative fosters Filipino artistic expression through many ways, and one is our physical studio. So this is providing a home to our resident artists and Another way is through our creative growth program. So this is our regranting program, where we're able to invite emerging artists to take part in our master classes. So this is teaching them technical skills like how do you create a budget, how do you market your event, how do you plan a PR campaign around that. So these very like technical skills, where we bring in other Filipino entrepreneurs who specialize in these things to come and teach the future generation. And also just providing programming and operational support to their final project. So at the end, they're put through this basically like a boot camp of 6 months where they're provided a venue, a space to work on their project, along with taking the classes and also working with us closely to put on that final event where it's kind of, it can be like a debut to the public if they're really, really new, they haven't exposed their work very much. And so that's one way we use our platform to uplift young Philam artists in the Bay Area.
That's amazing. Thank you.